Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. 5 most important breakout players for this LSU program heading into 2024. And Dill, personally, these are some of my favorite episodes to do where we've talked extensively about this LSU program and kind of the conversations regarding some of the key players for this LSU team, right? Garrett Nussmeier, Harold Perkins, and some of these breakout players in my mind just kind of fly under the radar. And so this list is meant to highlight some players that if LSU kind of reaches their potential in the 2024 year, these players are probably breaking out for LSU and having really strong years in 2024. A lot of different ways that you could go about making this list. Fired up to get into it. Before we do it, as always, just want to say one, thank you to you guys and for the LSU fans. Been a blast talking this program. It is no secret. We love talking about this program in the transfer portal, on the high school recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all continue to show truly does mean a lot. You even earned a banner up on Dill's wall behind him. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to get some feedback from you guys. Dill ended up making this list. I have some problems with it too. I think he left off some of my breakout players, so I'm going to let him have it. You guys let him have it in the comments section. And Dill, without further ado, let's start with the guy that I certainly agree on. Linebacker Whit Weeks, a phenomenal true freshman season for LSU in 2023. I'm fired up for this kid in 2024.
And frankly, I think this is a position they can get a lot better in because at the end of the day, Omar Speights, I think, had a very disappointing year.
He was horrible.
You come over from Oregon State, you really wanted big production, really didn't make any plays, made tackles, but they were all deep behind the line of scrimmage, wasn't flying around a whole lot, wasn't covering the whole field. I think with Whit Weeks, you see some of those flashes of being able to recognize things a little bit quicker, come downhill, make plays in the backfield, and stretch the field a little bit side to side. And that's a huge thing because I think at the end of the day, you don't want to have to see Harold Perkins go up back to that off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, Harold Perkins might play a little bit of that, but having guys like Greg Penn and Whit Weeks, who are those traditional off-ball linebackers, I mean, if you get really good play from Whit Weeks, that kind of frees up a guy like Harold Perkins. Let the leash off of Harold Perkins, let him come off the edge, blitz the A and B gaps. If you get good production from Whit Weeks, I think that's massive for how you want to use Harold Perkins. And Dill, let's just be straight up. Whit Weeks as a true freshman, in my mind, after going back and watching some games, significantly better than Omar Speights. And I think what stood out to me the most for Whit Weeks is the instincts that this kid had. I mean, this is a true freshman out there that looked as if he was playing for 4 to 5 years at the collegiate level. I think you're looking at an all-conference caliber linebacker.
And I think you can get a little bit more athletic, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, like just some of the athletic traits maybe you hope, again, just make that sophomore jump as you work a little bit more in the LSU strength and conditioning program and just physically develop, because obviously only playing as a true freshman for the most part. So I think you can, again, you combine the instincts with a little bit higher athletic gear. I think it would be huge for Whit Weeks.
Going to number 2, and this is by far the biggest question mark we have for this LSU program, the interior of the defensive line. You could go with kind of a couple different names. Obviously, true freshman Dominic McKinley certainly could be on this list. If you're asking me personally, who is the most important breakout player, it probably is the true freshman Dominic McKinley. Dill, sneaky solid season from Jacoby and Gillery, and I would like to preface with this is a guy that is not going to be a game wrecker like some of the other interior defensive linemen that you see across the country, but you talk about doing the dirty work, letting linebackers like Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks and Greg Penn kind of play free down the line, down into the line of scrimmage. Jacoby and Gillery, 6'2", 320, eats up double teams extremely well, can give you some pass rush juice, had 9 quarterback hurries last year. This guy can be a very serviceable SEC defensive lineman. If he takes that step, former top 100 national prospect going into year 5, this could be one of the most important players on this LSU roster.
And I think the big thing I'm looking at, and you're right, you have guys like Sean Washington and Dominic McKinley, some kind of more unknowns, if you will, guys coming in either from high school or junior college, where a lot of trades, things to certainly be excited about. But Gillery is the one guy I feel like who you've seen play really good SEC football at times. I think you'd like to see a little bit more playmaking ability. He's pretty athletic for like being a bit more of a fire hydrant kind of guy. I think he has some of that juice, as you mentioned. Had a fair amount of hurries last year, so a guy I think can be a little bit more dynamic in the pass rush. But at the end of the day, you need to have someone you can count on to game in and game out, be physical, eat up double teams, especially when you go play some of those SEC teams that really liked it, like Georgia, Alabama, some of those teams that if you're going to win the SEC title, you got to get to them at some point, whether it's in the championship game or regular season. I think you need to rely on him because he is the one guy I think you really feel good about being able to kind of play that role.
And my take is, even if he is not the game wrecker that you might be looking for, if he just gives you some solid play on the inside, let guys like Whit Weeks or Harold Perkins be your game wreckers. I think they're certainly capable of it from that second level of the defense. But if he can be that a serviceable body that's letting those guys have a big impact on the game, you see every elite defense have this kind of guy. And if he can be that guy for LSU with a little bit more playtime, that could be a really, really big storyline for LSU going to our number 3 player. And the LSU fans who've been rocking with the fellas for the last couple of weeks and really months now, y'all knew we weren't going to talk about some breakout players for LSU without talking about our guy, Caleb Jackson-Dill. Really, your guy. I'll give you the T-box. Caleb Jackson coming in, second year at the running back spot. How are we feeling about him?
I mean, I think the big thing was you look at what generated explosiveness in the rushing attack for LSU last year. It was very heavily weighted towards Jalen Daniels. Yeah. I thought you obviously got good moments from Logan Diggs and some of the other guys, but you didn't get that real highlight playmaking sort of running back from anyone, or rushing attack, if you will, from anyone besides Daniels. So I think you really need to see a running back emerge. Nussmeier's just not going to give you that in the rushing attack, obviously. So I think Caleb Jackson is going to have to pick up a fair amount of slack, be a big-time bell cow, and be a bit more of a playmaker than I think any one of those running backs were for LSU last year.
You said it, playmaker. And I think you look at Logan Diggs last year, not trying to drag the kid, just a good running back. And he had a lot of really good lanes because he was running behind an elite offensive line. Obviously had Jaden Daniels at the quarterback spot. It makes it easy to be a running back, but he didn't necessarily bring that playmaking ability. I think Caleb Jackson can do that. I mean, this is a guy that runs sub 11 in the 100-meter, who's 6 foot, 225 pounds. I just keep back watching that Wisconsin game and some of those reps where you just saw the juice that this kid had. And I'll throw out another running back that I'm kind of keeping my eyes on, Caden Durham. Now, he gets in the summer. This is just an absolute electric factory with the football in his hands. Runs, a 10-4 in the 100-meter dash, one of the fastest players in all of college football. They got some juice in the running back room, and they're going to need some juice because, again, you don't have Jaden Daniels back there manifesting some rushing prowess, if you will.
And it's like, again, I thought their running backs played okay, but that was kind of the issue is they were good. They were solid. They were running behind a great offensive line, but they weren't making a ton of plays. And I will say, I think I said Jalen Daniels. I hate myself for doing that.
I was going to say, I was going to correct you, and I said, hey, I've made that mistake before. I'll kind of let it slide. Let's talk about another one going into year 2. Ashton Stamps-Dill. We're talking about a lot of young cats, right? Whit Weeks going into year 2. Caleb Jackson going into year 2. Now Ashton Stamps going into year 2. Another one of your guys as opposed to my guys. I'll let you try to sell us all on Ashton Stamps going into year 2. Now, wait, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. One thing to sell the people on, but Blake Baker. I mean, Blake Baker coming in, just getting a little bit more out of these defensive backs. That's a massive storyline. All right, cook a little bit on Ashton Stamps.
I mean, I think you kind of know you need somebody to be able to play that number 1 corner spot. I think I like Sage Ryan in that nickel role. I don't think he's going to be that guy, frankly. I think Toviano probably going to end up in a safety role or something. I don't love him at corner either. So I'm kind of looking, if you're going to see someone make a move, it's going to be Ashton Stamps, I think. I thought for the moments you got to see him play a little bit of press man coverage. I think you see the athletic traits, you see the length, some of the physicality you want to see from your number 1 cornerback. I'm just kind of looking. They need somebody in that back end to play really, really good football. You can kind of look to Zy Alexander. I think you want to see just a better year from him, a more consistent year. But to me,
Zy Alexander got hurt. I thought he was playing some damn good football before
he was playing solid. But again, I think you need someone to step up and be this number 1. Someone's got to be that alpha dog.
They got a couple names, and I hate to say this because it sounds exactly how we talked about this secondary room 12 months ago in terms of they got some names. Some of the guys are going to step up, and hey, at least Blake Baker's coming in. You just feel a little bit better about the development of the back end with just a new coaching staff, because I don't know if there's a worse, well, maybe one worse defensive coaching staff, and that's USC, maybe. USC, LSU kind of battling it out last year. Dill, I'll throw out a few other names that I think are intriguing. One, Zy Alexander coming back from injury. I think he can be a legit cornerback. One, my guy's going to be J.K. Johnson coming back from the injury, former Ohio State Buckeye. I love this kid coming out of high school. I think he checks every single physical trait box that you want to see. Hey, just another capable cornerback that you could kind of add some depth and competition into this room. PJ Woodland, the true freshman.
That's who I was thinking. It's like, again, I am a sucker for a good true freshman in a spring game. And I think you saw, again, not necessarily the size you maybe want to see, but a guy who just moves the right way at that corner.
We'll see what he looks like coming out of the summer. Hey, get a few burgers, burritos. Hey, the Louisiana cooking, like, he can put on some weight. Let's go to the last one here. Aaron Anderson. This is my guy, so I'm going to take the T-box here. Dill, you were struggling to come up with a number 5. I kind of came in and said Aaron Anderson. Now, I'd like to preface, Aaron Anderson's not going to be, I don't even know if he'll be the wide receiver 3 on this LSU team, but I think he can provide something that's really special in this LSU offense, and that is that run after the catch ability. I mean, you have a lot of wide receivers that can work vertically down the field, that can attack defenses in that deeper third. Opposing defenses are going to have to respect that. And what does that happen? Safeties are playing far off the line of scrimmage, a lot of room to operate in those short intermediate route trees. You have a guy in Aaron Anderson who, again, I don't think is a top 3 wide receiver on this football team, but is a guy that kind of gives you something that maybe the other wide receivers don't. And that is that run after the catch ability. You are talking about, in my mind, one of the more special athletes with the football in his hands, guy that goes 10-7 in the 100-meter dash, really, really elite short area quicks. Joe Sloan can kind of scheme some of these guys in space. If there's one guy that you want to scheme in space, it's my guy, Aaron Anderson.
And another guy who you kind of take Jaden Daniels out of this offense and some of the firepower he gave you, can you get some creative matchups and let Aaron Anderson kind of make some plays for you? Because, again, whether he's kind of an extension of the run game in some of those swing patterns and some of those tunnel screens where you've seen that explosiveness really shine, I think he can be a big part of them kind of, again, trying to fill the shoes of what Jaden Daniels is going to leave. Because at the end of the day, his footprint was on everything. It was on the run game, it was how they threw the ball. I think you want guys to kind of step up and allow more creativity in through this offense that isn't relying on the quarterback as much.
And not that I think Nuss needs it, but if you want to settle him into some games, give him some easy access throws, this could be the guy that you can manufacture some explosive plays, but not put too much on Nuss, maybe particularly early in the season.
And especially in a situation where safeties are going to need to honor what everyone else is doing, because everybody else can really get down the field really well.
Last name that I'll shout out, Deshaun Womack, a guy that I don't think you saw what you wanted to see of him as a true freshman, but again, he was a true freshman along the line of scrimmage. It's very rare to see guys come into the SEC and dominate. That's another guy that if you told me middle October, you're talking about the most disruptive presence on that LSU defensive line, I would certainly not be surprised about that.
And just needs to probably play a little bit more physical. I mean, you saw some of the moments where he looks exactly how you want your defensive ends to look. He kind of moves up pretty much how you want them to move. But again, just being able to engage with blockers, beat guys in that way, and be a little bit more physical. I think that'll be a huge part of seeing him kind of take that step and hopefully be that real, really, really good edge rusher. Because you like some of the other guys like Swinson. He's a really good player, but he's never going to be that great elite, bendy, flexible edge rusher.
Braden Swinson's my guy. We'll cut it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas again. We have a blast doing these. Would love to hear from you guys in the comments section. And of course, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.